There are so many keyboard layouts. Most players still mainly choose the 67587 configuration. After all, arrow keys are needed in most scenarios. So today's main character is right. The Wella 70 is a relatively rare mass-produced 70-degree key. There are indeed very few 70 arrays in the disc. Among the tech kits, there are still some high-ranking options like the B70, Psycho 7, Neiwei 70, and so on. So let's not say much and take a look at this keyboard. On the outside, because it uses quick-release features, the top and bottom sides inevitably need to be wider. The sides are narrower. A 6.5U 70-inch array with left-shift split support for JTC AP 7x. Other options like fuel limit splitting don't support long shift mode. The video shows anodized ice blue meat, which looks slightly dusty, not particularly baby blue type. Now let's talk about the key features of this keyboard. The small module above the one room has a screen size of 2.47. The collection cover of the storage compartment is replaceable. Personally, I still think blue looks better. Overall, it looks like a sleek 70-degree layout. Basically, it's the same feeling. Moving on to the tiered design on the third side floor. For the bottom cover and weight back, the contrasting yang unit. The eagle-carved pattern carved with a light-weighted knife echoes the theme. Villa moving the ship is also very reasonable. Ding Phase 3 mode version to test latency. Okay, the message is wired. The latency is similar to the Eads coin model. The bad news is that latency is a bit high. I guess the parameters for pouring are too conservative. The current axial sword, Zeke's tank pieces are all upgraded in quality. Actually, there's no need to set such conservative specs. Just update the driver or update regularly. Actually, it's not a big deal. So, it is known that this keyboard still does not support 6 modification. You need to use driver software to set it up, including screen animation settings. After clicking, you'll find a page that leans toward public models. Some preset suggestions on the rebuild layer cannot be changed, including page up, page down, because this involves screen switching. The previous round of playing the music is relatively easy to operate here. No problem, although the overall design is simple, but it's not to the point of being hard to use yet. Arrived at the FR4 Chuntong positioning version that started farming in 3 days. Inside the worn-out clamps, this feel is on par with Dakari's fast rebound and steamed bag kits. You can see the moderate feel between slow rebound and slow rebound. The ISP with only the light hole turned on is the underpad. It seems the PP camera at the shaft socket hole is quite precise. Not the kind of big opening. This leads to poor results. EPDM elbow pad is relatively thin, so I need to give special mention here. At that time, Dahua will come with a thickness sheet. The elbow seat cotton made from this key material is just right. This means EPDM has shrunk. The thickness really doesn't reach the 3mm thickness advertised in ICT. This is a small discrepancy. Then there's an ISD pad, no issues. The PCB is a 12mm thick single-click slot. You can tell the grooving method is aimed at creating a softer, bouncy feel. However, because the magnetic contact is set in the center, this means this part can't be further slotted. What was the final expression? Both the upper and lower parts are relatively hard. The overall feel of the entire board is noticeably softer in the middle. If you feel it carefully, it's quite noticeable. The magnetic contacts on the screen connect very well. Since it is magnetic, then magnetically stick all the way through. The switch is a small Celestial 8-axis motor that also transmits light in blue. Each OEM pairs a set of Zhang Dehua's PPT keycaps to listen to the subtitle performance. I haven't replaced it yet, but later I started hearing the noise of the axle cushioning. She probably acts on the rather dull side. After replacing the bottom of the opening, lift the inner liner. Should sound quite nice. The consistency of the 4-axis inner liner with a slightly hemp line tone is pretty average. The two sides are because the empty gun is quite large. This can also be solved by replacing the bottom surface. The feel is just like I mentioned earlier. It feels like two uncut PCBs pieced together. To put it simply, the premise is a bit exaggerated, but it's still quite soft and springy. The top two rows and the bottom row are the grooves, respectively. The positioning plate and the lower limit of the plate yellow have a soft and bouncy feel. The middle two rows give the lower floor feel of the slotted PCB. The premise is that you press firmly. Only by saying you can press and transform this inner party into a distorted state does it feel this way. Using some light pressure switches like 30G to 40G, you won't feel this way. Overall, although it's soft and elastic, the elasticity isn't very consistent. However, after lifting the bubble inside the rear point, it can also help alleviate some of the symptoms. Then there's this long short bullet block. The screen details are really well done. It is pressed down by a frame, not the kind embedded in the box. The benefit of this approach is that it completely solves the problem of light leakage at the edges. The screen brightness is really high. As for the effect, it really lives up to the price range of the next line. The second generation 4-level dual cabin is a magnetic cover plate. There will also be options for custom branding later, so CT should be sufficient. There's a handle at the bottom, which is also very convenient to access. As for the appearance, I see everyone saying it's the little one. Actually, when you look at these two keyboards side by side, besides the design concept of the screen and the 70-degree layout with two keyboards, actually, there's not much correlation between them. The 70 configuration simply puts it simply, or this model has a feature and screen with a branded design like the XX80, Bose's kind, or two rows of buttons with a name tag or something like that, like Psycho 7 and B7. Speaking of which, Navi's side of the story, the lines and angles are still a bit different. As for the screen, it's actually more like that VV80 MK2. Why do I say this? The porcelain design inside is likely borrowed to some extent, and strengthened this line position a bit. It's quite easy to use and doesn't break easily, and this ATA's calcium board looks really familiar. The bipolar is said to be 220 mesh for actual texture. Personally, I feel like it's in that WB laser. Between the 80 and Quest 80, the visual experience is very delicate. There is a slight matte texture to the touch, not reaching the level of a lustful hand or a hand of seduction. These are a few minor issues right now. First, the opening on one side of the arrow keys socket is especially small. It needs to be trimmed so that the shaft angle can fit in. I'm not sure if it's a common issue or just my case. Also, the axle pad on the left side of Enter's axle hasn't been drilled for the satellite axle. Plus, there's an empty satellite axis at the bottom, and when it hits the bottom, this can easily lead to the sound of the material being misplaced. When assembling, make sure to move the assembly back and then step on this part. If you save yourself enough time, you'll have to tear it down again later. Other than that, there was nothing more to say. The entire assembly process does not require using a snail knife with full magnetism. The assembly experience of the suction contacts is quite good. Overall, the top trim Samo 499 yuan at the reference price range. After replacing the slope bottom, it's still a pretty good keyboard. Undeniably. On top, you can see shadows of some other special features. And the finished product is here for 500 yuan, which I think is still quite worthwhile. Overall, there were no major issues. The current problem lies with the shrinkage of the bottom cotton. The group account handling was still very timely, right? The base cotton, already cut from torn packaging, was added to the bulk market. Other minor details are lacking, which are better solved yourself. It's good if the raid members make some changes later. It's not a major or irreversible problem. So, driver modification is definitely not as convenient as 6. Some slots are also locked in a locked state. Modifications are not supported. This depends on whether renovation is needed. Also, the driver software is the power film sleeve. The skin's aesthetics are definitely not enough. Plus, the features aren't quite complete yet. Driver settings haven't been done yet, etc. See you next time in this video. Bye bye.